Welcome everyone back to the talk. Our next speaker is Vuk Lozo, who's working as an IT support team lead at Bosch. So Vuk has a master's from Faculty for Media and Communication, and he will be giving a speech here about automated deletion procedures. So without further ado, here's Vuk with his talk.
Hello and welcome to the automated deletion procedure. My name is Vuk Lozo and I will be giving you this little guided tour as to how and why Robert Bosch Power Tools needs an automated deletion procedure and why you would also need an automated deletion procedure in this very, very interesting time we live in now where data privacy and security is becoming paramount for majority of the companies, or all of them, I would say. A little bit of a background information about myself. I am 31 years old. I've been working for Robert Bosch Power Tools since June of 2018. I have a master's degree in public relations, and if you're wondering how did I get here and how is someone who has something to do with public relations or who studied public relations now talks to you about automated deletion procedures, well, let's just say this is the 21st century and none of us are really working in the fields we studied for, which I feel is completely fine. We try to reinvent ourselves our entire lives. And this new topic of data security and privacy is something that's always intrigued me, and I sort of found myself into it in these past few years. Also, this entire procedure, this entire topic we will be discussing today, it's very new tech. It's very, I would say, cutting edge even in some spaces and in some scenarios. And since I was a kid, I've always been interested in new technologies. I've always read and I've always learned about new products and new developments. Like when I was in elementary school, I was always the guy who had like a cell phone magazine in his backpack. And if you need some odd job information about a phone from like 15 years ago, you can ask me, and I will always be happy to provide you with that information. So it to me sort of comes naturally to evolve and to come into these new fields and to discuss these new topics, which will be pillars of how we handle data in the future. Of course, the second question which you would have, or you might have, is how does Power Tools have to do anything with data deletion? Like, they're just Power Tools, aren't they? And if you asked me this question 15 or 20 years ago, I would say you're absolutely correct. However, since everything is moving online, since everything is developing in this way, and all of the use case scenarios are changing, and we're trying to make everything as easily accessible and as less complicated to our customers, we've started creating applications and some sort of digital offers in which our customers can provide us information, be it Bosch Green or Bosch Blue customers. Of course, Bosch Green being the consumer base for enthusiasts, and Bosch Blue being the professional tools large professionals and construction companies use. Simply said, if you buy a tool, you can register it online. Apologize. You can register it online. You can enter some of your information there. And when you do, we can send you notifications like you need to change your battery, you need to change your saw, you need to change your drill, or your part, some parts need to be serviced, or we can even maybe try and upsell you. Oh, I see you're using a screwdriver from 2012. Why don't you just use the one from 2021? It's better, it's cheaper, it's more efficient, and we will give you an extended warranty, for example. And this is where this automated deletion procedure pretty much comes in. There's a lot of data being collected and there's a lot of data being kept in a lot of places, and you need to know when to delete it and why to delete it. And this is where we sort of begin. This is where I will start our deep dive into how and why we're doing this and why this is an important topic for not just for us, but I hope for everyone listening. It all starts, of course, with the user when we're talking about scopes and triggers. And the user can be anyone. It can be like corporation, it can be a construction company buying a lot of different professional tools, it can be you and me who are just buying a new drill or a new automatic saw or something like that. And when this customer comes to our digital offering, be it an application, be it a website, be it an e-shop, this is how the personal data enters our ecosystem. Once the personal data enters our ecosystems, depending on the type of data, it can go into three different places. It can either go to our marketing cloud, it can go into our SAP system or our ERP system managed by SAP, or it could go to some of our external service providers. If the data goes to our marketing cloud, it stays there. If the data goes to our external service provider, it stays there. If the data goes to an ERP system, it is being pushed to BI reporting. And this sort of completes this little picture as to how and why we collect data and which type of data can be collected. Of course, this can be anything from when you bought a power tool, when you bought let's say a spare part like a new drill or a new extension to your tool, or it could be some more complex information like when you bought the product, where you bought the product, some personal information related to your being, like where you live and how you paid for the product and similar. And this is why automated deletion needs to exist, because we need to know when this data is no longer necessary. Of course, like any large company, we always perform audits, and during these audits, there are different findings that can be found, and one of the findings can always be, why are you keeping this data when it's, as per our estimation, really unnecessary to do? And when you have GDPR and other privacy laws like Privacy Shield, which will be launched sometime soon, looming over your head, you need to have a very, very clear picture for how long you can keep data and when the data can be deleted. So from a user perspective, the first part of the data deletion can come in a form of a GDPR request. And one of the pillars of the GDPR request is the retention period. Of course, it's very, very easy to delete the data when the customer tells you, I want you to delete my data. However, the retention period I mentioned is also one of the staples of the GDPR request itself. And it trickles down to all of the other aspects of the deletion procedure, because, like I said, we need to know how and why we should delete some of the information. And the retention periods can be very tricky, because depending on your company, depending on the type of information, and maybe even some stuff like contracts which are in place, the retention period can vary from a scenario to scenario. So sometimes the retention period can be 1 day, sometimes the retention period can be 50 years. It really depends on the type of information we are handling and the type of information which is being given to us by the customer or which we collected sometime in the past. So the retention period is itself being divided into, let's call them these three pillars alongside the GDPR requests, which we mapped out based on how we collected the data and where the data is being held and how we are using it. So the first part of the automated deletion procedure is what we call the stakeholder request management platform. It's called Privacy Hub within Bosch. And I am the key user of Privacy Hub. I've been using it since July of 2020 when we launched it. Before that, I was also handling every single type of GDPR request which was coming in manually. And Privacy Hub has given us this option to automate this as much as we can. The developers will jokingly tell you that they made a Privacy Hub for me. However, the end goal was always to have a Bosch-wide solution, a solution that can be used by every single business unit and all of our colleagues who are working on GDPR requests, because it's very, very important when you're handling personal data and when you're handling personal information about your customers to have all of the information in one place. because it's easier for you to access that data and to delete it when it's necessary. And that's one of the main staples of Privacy Hub. Everything's in one place. There's no seepage of information all over the place, all over servers, emails, some other places, like if you have to print something out and then you keep it in a drawer. There's no scenarios like that anymore. Everything is being kept in one place, and everything is easily accessible, and everything can be handled with great care and deleted when the time comes. The second part of the automated deletion procedure is the deletion concept for the BI reporting, which also is sort of interconnected with the SAP deletion, because the BI reporting we are using, it all comes out from the ERP systems which utilize SAP. Of course, SAP is a very large corporation, and a lot of different companies use SAP, of course, Bosch included. And we came to a realization that before GDPR hit in 2018, SAP didn't really have a deletion concept. They didn't really delete data whatsoever. I mean, I'm sure they did to a certain degree, but they didn't have to do it on the level you have to do it now. So we've, in a way, teamed up with them to develop this this part of the automated deletion procedure, which is related to SAP deletion and to how SAP deletion can be handled first on the side of Bosch, and then maybe in the future, as a concept, sold as a concept to other companies who would like to implement a similar solution. And the fourth part is the non-SAP deletion concept, which is related to our digital offers. Of course, non-SAP means all of the systems which are not using SAP whatsoever. Most of these are our own Bosch internal systems, which were developed in-house and which do not rely on SAP or any other external partner for data collection and data usage. Next part of the next part, or the first part of the pillar, as to how and why we have developed Privacy Hub itself, is to test out and to streamline what the next step in automated deletion is, and those would be the APIs. Of course, the API means application programming interface, and APIs needed to be developed and needed to be implemented on a smaller scale, let's call it like that, in order to see how and well it would function and be carried over to other aspects of the automated deletion, which are more complex, like the one I mentioned, the SAP and the non-SAP data deletion. So right now, there are a few procedures which are automated, and then there are a few procedures which are still manual. And the automated parts of this data deletion concept we're using with Privacy Hub, and we're using 3 APIs, are for consent withdrawal and for unsubscription from let's say newsletters or any other types of marketing activities, with the core information being that the data deletion, data portability, right to access, and right for rectification of personal data will also be fully automated in the future. We've developed these APIs right now with our currently with our marketing systems, with our Bosch marketing cloud systems, where a customer request comes in, a customer says, I want to withdraw my consent. I object for you using my data or sending me some information or newsletters, or I just want you to unsubscribe me from this newsletter or from any other type of marketing materials you have. A request comes in, the request is filed. The API runs because the API is connected to the marketing system and the marketing cloud. It says this customer wants us to withdraw the consent, or this customer wants us to unsubscribe them from a newsletter. The API communicates this between Privacy Hub and between the Bosch marketing cloud, and the data is the request itself is fulfilled. There's no more newsletters, or the marketing consent has been withdrawn. Now, by the end of 2022, when the entire procedure itself is completely mapped out and complete, all of these other types of requests will also be completely and fully automated. Our idea is, and our current, let's say, plan or our current roadmap is that we are discussing and we are developing these retention periods I mentioned a moment ago. How and when a customer request comes in through GDPR, do we delete the data? Which will be the triggers? Because the question is, why overcomplicate something like this when you can just manually delete the data? But you can't just manually delete the data anymore. You need to know why you're deleting data, and you also need to delete the data because of the aforementioned audits. And in some cases, if someone does file a GDPR request against the company, if someone comes in and says, okay, we want to go over your data deletion concept, we need to show them how and why we're deleting some of the information and why we're not deleting other information, which can be the difference between not paying a very hefty fine and paying a very hefty fine. So the natural question after this would be, why are we complicating this thing? And again, how does Power Tools have to do anything with this vast amount of data? And the answer is very simple. Bosch, as a company which is digitally transforming pretty much every day, is working hard on becoming an Internet of Things company. It's one of our main goals, and it has been one of our main goals for the past 3 years to reorganize ourselves in this way. And Power Tools will also use these staples of Internet of Things to create more and more interconnected tools, more and more tools which will be either connected to themselves or to some sort of applications we will be using or to some sort of smart home interfaces. And this collects a lot of information. This collects a vast amount of data, and we need to know if this data is relevant and if we need to delete it. If you have a customer who passed away, or if you have a customer who bought a power tool 15 years ago and just registered an account but never registered a power tool, never used any of the corporate benefits we offer, never had like an extended warranty, never even bought a spare part, why would we need to keep this information, and why would this data need to be kept in our system? Because it just grows the risk of you not of you having information you potentially don't really need. And it also, like I said a moment ago, grows the risk of someone coming in and saying, you're keeping this data unauthorized, we will now give you a very, very big fine. And our main goal here, our main idea of the entire procedure is to define the mentioned retention periods, to use them, and to have this completely automated and done by the fourth quarter of 2022. So we can roll this out first in Power Tools, and then after that to our colleagues in other business units, because it's very, very important for us to have a clean slate, to keep the information we need to keep only when we need to keep it, and to mitigate the risks of someone saying, you're keeping data unlawfully, we are going to fine you right now. This would conclude this presentation from my side. I hope I was clear enough. I hope I didn't bore you. I hope I was trying to be as interesting as I could be on a serious topic such as this one in a very limited time. I had to go over what we're doing and why we're doing it. And the next part of the presentation, of course, are the questions. Once this live stream finishes, sorry, not live stream, the pre-recorded session finishes, I will be tuning into you live, and you will have about 5 minutes to ask me some of the questions related to the presentation, related to what I just talked to you about. And once we're done, I just like to say that this has been a huge honor for me to represent my company here, to give you some insight as to how we're doing these things and how we're handling personal data. And just, I hope that I'll be able to see you again maybe next year at the Data Science Conference or at some other place. And that's it. Thank you very much for your attention, and speak to you soon when we answer these questions. Have a good day and have fun at your at the other presentations you will be listening to today. Bye-bye.
Now we will be joined by Vuk live.
Hi, everyone. Hope you can hear me fine.
Yes, we can. How are you?
A bit stressed out because it's always interesting to me to hear myself talk, and it's a very funny thing to see myself not interacting with myself. And I do hope I didn't bore people to death, and that it was a good talk.
No, I don't believe you did. We do have some questions, and let's start off right off the bat with clearly GDPR and data protection. So I think companies have now already gotten used to a bit more and more with ensuring data protection and especially enforcing privacy rights. But with this automated now solutions, they're once again having to change their, let's say, culture in a relatively short span in a few years. So what are some of the challenges you foresee, both firstly for the companies that have very successfully done the change for data protection, and then secondly for those that are still struggling a bit? Who do you see is actually going to accept the change more, and where do you see the challenges there?
Well, it's since GDPR is very alive. In my opinion, it's a very complex topic on its own, and even if you follow all of the regulations, you're not really out of some, let's say, risk. And this is exactly why we decided to push this in this new direction, where we can try to solve the problem with huge data collection before it even happens. And just like with all changes, when you're working in companies which are big and which are very I'm gonna say old-fashioned, but not in that bad derogatory sense. Old-fashioned, it's just a very big, stable company, and you have a lot of old school people, and then you have us new school people who are working on trying to fix things or solve problems before they happen. And that's that biggest challenge into how are we going to explain to these old guys why we're doing this and how this can improve upon the procedures we set up when GDPR was launched and when we adapted to it. And that's one of the risks, which was the biggest. They weren't really all that keen on GDPR. It was always that thought about, oh, it's the EU. They always launch these things. They never follow through. But then they started following through with GDPR. And that's when they realized, okay, maybe these guys from data privacy actually know something and they can teach us something new. And that's one of the things that makes us happy the most with this project, because we were able to mitigate that biggest risk of people just not believing in what we're doing and trying to slow us down with some procedures and some things like that.
Great. And on a more global scale, let's say, you see the future of GDPR and data protection completely automated, or will there have to be at some point some human factors still there, just in case?
There will always have to be a human touch, just in case, especially with stuff like this, because it's a very risky field. You need to be completely sure you know what you're doing, and our main goal with this automated deletion is to sort of automate these mundane day-to-day activities which happen like on a daily basis in someone's daily work, just so you can have more time to focus on more important things or more complex cases which actually do need that human touch. And that's why we're working with multitude of teams within Power Tools and within other Bosch business units, just to map this out properly and make sure that the things we automate are the things that we need to automate, and the things that are not going to be automated are not automated for a specific reason. And that's just to be some sort of gatekeepers in the sense of not allowing things to be deleted or things to be automated that shouldn't be automated, that actually need to be checked. So just to protect ourselves from ourselves in a way.
And going further onto the, let's say, the things that you said, could you elaborate a bit more what you believe will still need this human element?
The biggest human element which is needed, in my opinion, is just that clarity of thought and common sense. There are cases which might seem to be logical to some, and which someone might say, okay, this can be completely automated. For example, like the case I mentioned in the presentation, when a person dies, you don't really know if the person died or not. You can't contact them technically, so that's the human touch. That's where the human touch is needed. Cases like those specific cases, those edge cases, where you need to know who to contact and how to approach someone to make sure that the request is legitimate, that it's actually related to a specific person, rather than someone just saying, okay, my name is Ognjen Lukacevic and I want you to delete my data, and I don't know who you are, I don't know how you look like, I just have this request from you, and if we click poof automate delete that data, we are in this risk of deleting the wrong information. And that's that part of the human touch that needs to be there, someone who's going to control and to determine why this process has to be automated on one end, but then why this other part which needs human touch will not be automated, just to protect ourselves, like I said, from ourselves.
Great. And one final question, and this isn't exactly on the technology, but rather, let's say, on the more philosophical view of data protection. As someone who's been in the field for a very long time, do you see this as the pinnacle of data protection, GDPR, or is there still some more work to do?
There will be more work, definitely. We still have one more year of the entire project to adapt and to finalize. And I did mention in the presentation that Privacy Shield will also be launched. It's going to be this big global GDPR-esque, but more, let's call it, larger than life privacy law and privacy setting. And also there are new laws which are being implemented in Japan, in South Korea, even in China and in Russia, which you might think, oh, like they're the biggest censors in the world, why do they need privacy laws? But because Bosch operates in all of those markets, this is an ever-growing topic, and a topic which will be constantly present within our lives. And I'm sure that the technology will evolve even more, that we can even more streamline the process and bring the company further into the future, and keep data privacy on the forefront, and keep this entire idea present, and develop the technology even further to make sure everything is always up to date and optimized and streamlined.
Brilliant. That's it for the questions. I promise I won't be bothering anymore. And thank you once again for giving us this talk and your insights onto this topic, which is, as we have mentioned, quite relevant and will continue to be relevant. And I do hope you enjoyed the experience. And on behalf of the conference, once again, thank you.
And thank you for having me. And I do hope I'll see you next year, hopefully live.
As do we. Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy.